Martin Cunningham first poked his silk-hatted head into the creaking carriage and, entering deftly, seated himself.
In the 6th section of the book, Leopold Bloom attends the funeral of his friend, Paddy Dignam.
Mr. Power stepped in after him, curving his height with care.
Come on.
After you.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Dedalus covered himself quickly and got in.
Are we all here now? Come along, Bloom.
Mr. Bloom entered and sat in the vacant place. He pulled the door to after him and slammed it twice till it shut tight.
As Bloom rides through the streets of Dublin in a carriage to the cemetery, he speaks with his friends and reflects on life and death.
A jolt. Their carriage began to move, creaking and swaying.
What way is he taking us?
Irishtown, Ringsend, Brunswick Street.
That's a fine old custom. I'm glad to see it has not died out yet.
On the tram tracks near Watery Lane, they pass Stephen Dedalus, the other protagonist of the novel, and Simon Dedalus's son.
There's a friend of yours gone boy, Dedalus.
Who is that?
Your son and heir.
Was that Mulligan cad with him?
No. He was alone.
Mr. Bloom smiled joylessly on Ringsend Road.
He's in with a low-down crowd. His name stinks all over Dublin. I'll tickle his catastrophe, believe you me.
Noisy, self-willed man, full of his son. He's right. Something to hand on. If little Rudy had lived, see him grow up, hear his voice in the house, my son. Me in his eyes. Strange feeling it would have been, just a chance how life begins.
As they drive, they pass the monuments of Dublin, giving the reader a road map of their path.
I could have helped him on in life. I could make him independent.
St. Mark's, the Queen's Theatre, Dodder Bridge, the ripped-up roadway before the tenement houses.
Gasworks. Whooping cough, they say it cures. Good thing Millie never got it. Poor children. Doubles them up black and blue in convulsions.
A raindrop spat on his hat. He drew back and saw an instant of shower spray dots over the gray flags.
Got off lightly with illnesses compared. Only measles, flaxseed tea, scarlatina, influenza epidemics, canvassing for death.
They passed Nelson's pillar.
Dignam was as decent a little man as ever wore a hat. He went very suddenly.
Breakdown. Heart.
He had a sudden death, poor fellow.
The best death, no suffering. A moment and all is over, like dying in sleep.
In the midst of life.
But the worst of all is the man who takes his own life, the greatest disgrace to have in the family.
Temporary insanity, of course. We must take a charitable view of it.
They say a man who does it is a coward.
It is not for us to judge.
Mr. Bloom, about to speak, closed his lips again. Martin Cunningham's large eyes, looking away now.
He knows, rattles his bones. Sympathetic man he is, intelligent. Always a good word to say. They have no mercy on that here. Refuse Christian burial.
The carriage rattled swiftly along Blessington Street, over the stones.
They used to drive a stake of wood through his heart in the grave, as if it wasn't broken already, found in the riverbed clutching rushes. Yet, sometimes they repent too late.
As they turned into Beakley Street, a street organ sent over and after them a rollicking, rattling song of the halls.
That afternoon of the inquest, the red-labeled bottle on the table, the room in the hotel with hunting pictures, stuffy it was. Sunlight through the slats of the Venetian blind, the coroner's sunlit ears, big and hairy, boots giving evidence.
We're going the pace, I think.
God grant the driver doesn't upset us in the road.
In silence, they drove along Phibbsborough Road. An empty hearse trotted by, coming from the cemetery.
Thought he was asleep first, then saw like yellow streaks on his face. Had slipped down to the foot of the bed.
Dumthy's corner. Mourning coaches drawn up, drowning their grief.
Tip-top position for a pub. Expect we'll pull up here on the way back to drink his health. Pass round the consolation, elixir of life.
The high railings of Prospect Cemetery rippled past their gaze. Dark poplars, rare white forms.
Verdict, overdose. Death by misadventure. The letter for my son Leopold. No more pain. Wake no more. Nobody owns.
The horse harshed against the curbstone. Stopped. Martin Cunningham wrenched back the handle and shoved the door open with his knee. He stepped out. His companions followed.
Coffin now got here before us. Must be 20 or 30 funerals every day. Then Mount Jerome for the Protestants.
Mourners came through the gates. The mutes shouldered the coffin and bore it in.
Funerals all over the world, everywhere, every minute. Shoveling them under by the cartload, double quick. Thousands every hour. Too many in the world.
I was in mortal agony with you talking of suicide before Bloom.
What? How so?
His father poisoned himself.
Oh, God. First I heard of it. Poisoned himself?
Bloom looked down at the boots he had blacked and polished.
How many children did Duignam have?
5. Ned Lambert says he'll try to get one of the girls employed at Todd's.
A sad case, eh? 5 young children.
A great blow to the poor wife.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
She had outlived him, lost her husband. One must outlive the other. Condole with her. Your terrible loss. She would marry another. No, yet who knows after.
They enter the mausoleum where the priest performs the service. Bloom's thoughts wander, reflecting on the meaning of the Catholic rite and on death itself.
Broken heart, a pump after all pumping, thousands of gallons of blood every day. One fine day it gets bunged up and there you are. Lots of them lying around here. Lungs, hearts, livers, old rusty pumps. The resurrection and the life. Once you're dead, you're dead.
The coffin dived out of sight, eased down by the men straddled on the grave trestles.
Begin to be forgotten. Out of sight, out of mind.
A 7th gravedigger came beside Mr. Bloom to take up an idle spade. Clay, brown, damp, began to be seen in the hole. It rose, nearly over.
Let us go round by O'Connell's grave. We have time.
Let us.
Some say he's not in that grave at all, that the coffin was filled with stones, that one day he will come again.
Parnell will never come again. He's there, all that was mortal of him.
Peace to his ashes.
He's at rest in the middle of his people, old Dano. How many broken hearts are buried here, Simon?
Mr. Bloom walked, unheeded by saddened angels, crosses, broken pillars, family vaults, stone hopes praying with upcast eyes.
We're sensible to spend the money on some charity for the living, pray for the repose of the soul of. Does anybody really? Plant him and have done with him.
An obese gray rat toddled along the side of a crypt, moving pebbles.
An old stager, he knows the ropes. One of those chaps would make short work of a fella, pick the bones clean no matter who it was. Ordinary meat for them. A corpse is meat gone bad. Cremation better. Priests dead against it. Time of the plague, quick-lime fever pits to eat them. Ashes to ashes.
The gates glimmered in front, still open.
Back to the world again. Enough of this place. Brings you a bit nearer every time. Plenty to see and hear and feel yet.
A solicitor, John Henry Minton, emerged from a side path with a ding in the side of his hat.
Excuse me, sir. Your hat has a little crushed.
John Henry Minton stared at him for an instant without moving.
Right there.
John Henry Minton took off his hat, bulged out the ding, and smoothed the nap with care on his coat sleeve. He clapped the hat on his head again.
It's all right now.
John Henry Menton jerked his head down in acknowledgement. They walked on toward the gates.
Oyster eyes. Never mind. Be sorry after, perhaps. Thank you. How grand we are this morning.